Welcome to the Real Room. Real people, real challenges, real discussions, and real answers, really. We are so blessed today to have a dear friend, awesome woman of God, Kristy Klamer. Welcome, Kristy.
Thank you.
Um,
So glad to be
Glad
here.
that you're here. And by the way, we're Mike and Lillian Smith, and we're so happy to be a part of this podcast and hosting, and happy to have Kristy on. I want to tell you a little bit about Kristy because I was thinking about you and also Steve. Was it last night or the night before? And I was like, okay, how long have I known her? And when did I meet Steve? And I thought back to our experiences at a church that we all attended. And I was like, okay, adding it up. Let's see. I want to say probably 20 years I've known you.
It's
Met you
been
at the
a
church.
while. I actually
Yes. And
it's been a
then,
while back.
yeah, and then we launched our own nonprofit, our ministry. And then Mike and I started doing like the marriage
Right,
retreats. And
right.
so that's where I met Steve. I think Mike had met Steve prior to that. And so you guys actually attended one of our retreats. And so
Yep.
got to know you even better. And then kind of went kind of our separate ways. In fact, you're living in the beautiful state of Tennessee now, and we're all from Michigan. But when you moved, we kind of lost track, and then we reconnected recently. And so it's pretty amazing that, how God can orchestrate that and bring people back together again. So
Yeah.
I just want to tell our audience a little bit about you before we get started into some questions. So not only do you and Steve live in Tennessee, but let's talk specifically about what you've been doing because our podcast is really all about health and wellness, but it's health and wellness in a different way than the majority of people have even been looking at over the years. And that is taking a whole person approach to that. So you've been in this field or in this area for 22 years, right? You recently became the National Marketing Director of Juice Plus, which
Yes,
is
just
a phenomenal company. Yay. There's a lot of believers in that company and they're doing a wonderful work. And let's see, you have actually partnered with them for the last 8 years, I believe. You're passionate about your country, as we are, your faith, as we are, and obviously helping others reclaim their health. So that's why we wanted you to be a part of our podcast because we are like-minded and like-hearted in so many ways. So you have also done 30 sourdough workshops. That's a new thing. People are so excited about sourdough bread because, oh, it's gluten-free. I can actually
Mhm.
eat bread again. And so you're doing these workshops, at least 30 that you've done and accomplished. Um, Educational cancer events, wellness retreats. This is amazing. You truly love helping others to focus on their whole being, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And so you've been serving people for many, many years in various capacities. And when you're not working, this is something else that we recently discovered about you. You love to travel. You and Steve are just going across the country, experiencing all these different places, these different environments, and it's really exciting to watch that. The other thing is you are also involved in what another thing that we too are involved in, and that is fighting human trafficking and also encouraging other people to invest in their marriage. So welcome to the program. I know that's a lot and it's amazing. You have been doing a lot and you are doing a lot. So welcome. So this is very conversational. So we want you to feel relaxed. And we've put together a few questions. And Mike is going to kind of lead you into some of the discussion that we're going to have together so that people can learn as much as they possibly can from you.
Yeah, and I have been on a couple of those webinars you've done, cancer, and you just do a phenomenal job, just not only with information, but transformation. It's very relational. So you use your gifts very well.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
welcome to the program.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
So with all this being said, you've been on quite a journey for quite a long time. Tell us a little bit about how you got started on the wellness journey and, maybe some of the ups and downs throughout. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, well, first of all, thank you just for having me. And I do feel like we are very like-minded, and we have a lot of same passions, which makes a lot of sense because hopefully we are trying to follow his heart, right? And so, the Lord's heart. So, as far as my wellness journey, I would say it has been much of a marathon, and it's been longer. And so, I think for a lot of people that's not the case. But so for my journey, I would say I was brought up in a home that we just had the meats, potatoes, and vegetables. I wouldn't say that I grew up in a home that was like necessarily like unhealthy, but what I would say today is probably, good healthy habits to have. I wouldn't say those things were necessarily encouraged. And so I really have had to learn along the way a lot. And so if I think back, I had to think a little bit more back about this. Back in my 20s, I remember I moved out, got at a pretty young age, and I just kind of ate whatever, whenever. And there was no real intention to anything. I did not exercise a lot or anything like that, even though I did play sports growing up. And so I was surprised all of a sudden when I found myself to be like, all of a sudden I looked at the scale and it was the biggest number I've ever seen. And so I was like, how did this happen? I mean, genuinely, I don't think I really understood. And so I think that was my first little, like, oh, maybe I need to pay attention to my health because I didn't have any health issues. And so this is been a process of like 25 years of learning. And what I have come to find that is for most people that get into health or nutrition and stuff like that, it's been because of a health issue that they've had or struggle, or maybe a family member's health struggle. And so that's kind of made them have to like look and see about choices, lifestyle choices and such. And then they've shifted. Well, this has not been my story. So what's interesting is I had two family members that I was very close to that, to be honest, I kind of felt like they were like the health freaks, or I hate to even use that word now. I'm kind of embarrassed,
Right.
but to be honest, that's kind of how I viewed them. Like, wow, they're a little extreme. But the funny thing is, although I kind of view them that way, when they shared information or to listen to something or whatever, I was listening. Like I was listening. And if you know me, I'm a person that I'm a why person. I want to understand why something is the way it is. Like why is this scale telling me I'm like this large number? I'm just like I want to figure it out and understand. And so I got on this journey, and I remember the first thing I can actually remember where I actually feel like I started to like things started to click was again, I think I was like around 21, 22, and I was given a CD. And this CD said the 7 things that you should never eat. And I listened to it, and I was like, it made sense to me. Like what people always ask me, well, what was on it? And I remember pork being one of the things, but I don't remember all the things. But I literally have not really done pork ever since, which is interesting. So I always tell people, like, when you learn something, it's like try to take that one thing or the 2 things or whatever it is, right? Just small steps here and just try to implement it. When you learn something new, like, oh, okay. Because when you try to tackle it all, it is just doesn't go over well. You get overwhelmed, you quit. So that is what I have done literally for the last 25 years. And so, fast forward more, I would say to maybe to about 10 years ago, that's when I started just having more of a thirst and desire to really learn and really started making more connections and understanding. And I started, not just understanding for myself, but I think I got this desire to help other people too along on my journey. And so I would say that my journey has not been easy. Because making lifestyle changes when you're not necessarily, yes, I had that little weight thing for a little bit, but it wasn't like huge. I really didn't have health issues. So I think it's hard to make changes when you don't necessarily feel it, like you don't have maybe symptoms or whatever. So for me, it had to be more me like understanding it. So, and I'll just share this one thing is, I remember specifically going to a toxin seminar with my new integrative doctor, and they had this whole thing on toxins, and I remember leaving it and being like, oh my word, like I don't know, I can't do this. Like this is just crazy. Like I gotta get rid of my Tupperware, and I mean, I was just so overwhelmed. But
Mhm.
so I just want everyone to know, like I'm like everybody else. I've gotten overwhelmed too, and it's been a journey of just making one right choice after another.
Yeah, that's so good. She mentioned so many things that are like just really pricking my
Well, me too.
thinking
Yeah,
process,
yeah.
right? Like everything from yeah, one thing at a time, one step at a time, because when Mike and I wrote our book, Fit and Faith, we have a whole chapter on we incorporated and used Dave Ramsey's concept of doing the baby step program. So we have a baby step program that we've put together to help people just by step. And if you make these changes little bits at a time over the course of a year, your entire lifestyle can be changed, to the good. The other thing that you mentioned, which I know Mike can probably speak to this as well, is that, a lot of times people don't even start this journey until they're already reaping the consequences of bad choices that have been going on for many, many years. So now I'm pre-diabetic, or I've got high blood pressure, or I went and got my blood work done, my cholesterol's high, or I get the big C word diagnosis or the possibility of having cancer. Now all of a sudden they start thinking about their health. And one of the things that we want to do is to try to get people's attention early on so they can practice prevention. And so when you mention the toxins and all of that, it's like, okay, my people perish for lack of knowledge. That's what the Bible says in Hosea. And that's one of the things that we talk about regularly too. So if we can provide information like through this podcast, through the things that you're sharing to get people's attention now so that they realize you have this knowledge. Now you need to implement some changes so that you don't perish. I mean, that's the seriousness of it, right? So, and
Yeah, and we mentioned like one of the foundations of the book, Fit and Faith, was we saw in the church, literally stumbling to the finish line. So we get there, we just kind of die out over time. That's kind of like, what happens to a lot of people. I had a question that I don't want to ask before I forget. When you were speaking about seeing the people as, kind of extremists, was there a point or is there a point where you got to where people were saying, you're pretty extreme with this,
Oh, I laugh about it now because I am that person now. Like
yes, we
I
are
am,
too. We are too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what's funny is what I'm thankful for my journey is I actually understand, I think, the everyday person, and I understand when there's pushback and when you are trying to share truth about different things that are hard, right? Because like making change is hard no matter what it is and what area of life it is. And so I understand the pushback. And sometimes it's a spouse that pushes back or whatever. Like I remember like resisting sometimes internally, sometimes, verbally, like I'm not doing that yet or I'm not there yet. So yeah, so it was but no, I'm that and what's really funny, I've really thought this because I'm kind of a more analytical, deeper person of the way I think, but why is it extreme? Why is eating healthy or regularly getting good sleep, or we could go on and on about all the areas? Why is that extreme? And I'm like, why it's extreme is because we have gone so extreme the other way that
Yes.
it's like counterculture. So
Yeah.
just like spiritually, we often talk about that. It's like you're also doing that, and it's hard, right? Like you go to a family gathering, and sometimes people make fun of you, and and no, you start to just no, that's just part of the course. But that's as soon as they have that health issue, guess who they're coming to? They're coming to you.
Yes.
So
And
it matters, not just for your own health, but for other people as you're like living it out.
Yeah, our family, I got to the point where our family, they would kind of mock us. So they would say, what did you bring today? And I would say, well, we brought some organic dirt and some dandelions. Are you interested?
I'm
Well,
not
no.
surprised, Mike, because you have a great sense of humor. So I am not surprised that it was your answer.
yes, he's always, has people laughing, we brought the twigs and berries
Yeah,
and
we foraged before we came, and
yeah,
there it is. Yeah.
but we did learn that, you prepare ahead of time. You really have to plan if you're going to live this kind of radical lifestyle because it is. But you start where you are and you just begin to make progress. And before you know it, you look back and you think, wow, we've come so far. And yes, this is radical living, but we're living radically in every area of our life, relationally, spiritually. I mean, we are radical believers in Jesus, and, we no apologies for that. And the more that you learn and you begin to implement the things that you learn, that's what happens because you look back and you're like, wow, I am not the same person today. And I'm living my life the way that I believe is God honoring and it's glorifying Him. And we just want more people to come along with us because we're reaping the benefits of those changes, and I'm sure you are too. You begin to feel like, wow, I'm clear-headed. I have energy. I can do this. And then being an influencer, going back to, being around family members and people looking at you like, wow, you're a weirdo. You start coming up with strategies when you are going to do community events, whether that's your family or your church family. And so you bring a healthy dish to share. And I've learned, don't tell people that that's healthy, otherwise they won't even eat it. And that's one of the why we did a recipe book because the mindset out there is like if it's healthy, it tastes nasty.
Well, you want to hear something funny about that when you're saying that? I just have to say it's so funny
Yeah.
because my dad does not like to eat, does not want to eat what I cook because he thinks it has to taste bad. So when my mom like says I'm making when I so while I'm there, for a little while, a week or whatever, and she'll say, "This is a healthy this. This is." She kept putting the word healthy in front of everything. I go, "Mom, will you stop saying the word healthy? Like just
Yeah.
just this is a meatloaf. This is a what, you know." And so it's so much of the mindset. And so actually, it's funny, and I know we haven't really gotten to this, but like I have realized that a lot of these things is how I've come up with my healthy living events. It's because it's things that have helped me, right? So like healthy living on a budget, because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't because it's too expensive." Or I remember having a like a date night type thing, and it was like my goal was like I need those in the room, often it's husbands, I'll just be honest, not always, but often, I need them to know that they can eat healthy and it can taste good. So, like, that's my goal is for them to walk away. And I remember I did do one, and this husband reached out to me the next day at church, and he's like, "Kristy, everything you made was so good. We want all the recipes." I go, and believe it or not, it was all healthy. Can you believe it?
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
Excellent strategy.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And
So
start out with the desserts because it seems to me like
you have to reverse engineer it. Yeah.
the majority of people are sugar addicts. And so if you start out with a healthy dessert and that's what you bring, and then that's what they get to taste, and
Oh, yeah.
that kind
So
of
much
lures them
mental.
in.
So
Like,
much mental.
there's what? And they ask you what's in this? And yes, I want the recipe. And when you tell them that no sugar, it's like, wow,
And
they're
sometimes
blown.
that's the beginning of their journey.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
something
Mhm.
clicks, like, oh my gosh, I don't have to use all that stuff, and I can still, have something that tastes good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So one part of the journey, yeah, speaking of just the desserts, that's just real quick. We got introduced. We met a couple at church. It's a long story to it, but they were raw vegans, and they invited us over. We weren't on we were eating fairly healthy and everything, but it was cheesecake. And it tastes like something you get off the shelf at Kroger or Publix. Almost like I feel guilty, but it's good for me. So that's kind of how we got started on a new life,
Yeah,
our
that was
journey,
one of
was the
yeah,
dessert.
that was probably one of the first desserts that we had that
Yeah,
was actually healthy and had no sugar and no dairy either. I
yeah,
mean,
right. Yeah,
they were raw vegans, so
yeah.
it was
No
all made from
milk. Yeah,
cashews.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cashews.
I actually think I have that recipe or something similar to it, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
So on another part of, this is you had a great influence on me in this area, was your journey with Juice Plus, which is
Mhm.
something that I've been in on, with both feet, and I really believe in. So if you could share that, I think people need to hear about Juice Plus and what it's all about, and how it's changed you, and how you're influencing other people with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So let's just clarify one thing. It's actually not, even though it's called Juice Plus, it's not juice. So let's
Right.
start
Yeah.
there.
Good for
Let's
people to
start there.
know. Yeah.
But the company's been around for 50 years. The whole food based nutritional products have been around for about 33, depending on the product, obviously. But it's literally fruits and vegetables in a capsule. and a gummy form. And then now, as of recently, this past year, we actually now have it in a powder that you can actually make into a drink. And so, going back to my story and my journey, my husband and I were trying to do everything, because we were learning, because we were making changes, we were doing everything we could. We knew three things. We knew that we weren't getting the 7 to 13 servings of raw fruits and vegetables in a day. We knew that we were not getting the 30, the diversity of fruits and vegetables, right? The different colors, the different kinds. You're supposed to have about 30 different kinds a week. We knew that wasn't happening in our lives. We all tend to kind of go towards our favorites, whether it's because we're buying for our family or for ourselves. And then the third thing, we really knew that the soil was nutrient deficient, that a lot of our farms have. And we could go all into that and all the reasoning, but that, and also that a lot of our fruits and vegetables, if we're not having a garden in our backyard, or we aren't maybe close to farms, that it's coming from a really far away, so it loses the most nutrition is that first 24, 48 hours when it is harvested. So because of those three things, which we, learned along the way, we knew we weren't getting enough. So even though we weren't having all these health issues, it was like, hey, like, what do we need to do here? So honestly, I tell people the only way to really know, because we usually do things based off symptoms often, like what we should do and whatever. But the only way to really know is to get tested. So we did. We went to a more integrative functional medicine type doctor and got more thorough testing. And it was funny because I actually remember them saying to me, "You are our healthiest patient we've ever had. But here's a huge long list of supplements that you need to take, and this is where you're deficient." I was like, wait a second. So that was a part of it. And then also, again, we'll watch, I'm sure you guys do this too sometimes, watch documentaries. And so we watched this documentary called Super Juice Me. And this is again before Juice Plus. And so they took 8 people, 22 diseases between these 8 people, and they juiced fruits and vegetables for a whole month. Like they did not eat food. They did not chew and eat food. So we got to the end of that, and my husband goes, "Let's do it." And then we're like, first year of marriage, and I'm like, being a good wife, I'm like, okay, you wanna like only juice for? I mean, we literally got on Facebook, was sharing our journey once a week. I remember literally because once time that time hop comes up, we were at a wedding. We're like doing our juice at this wedding. I'm like laughing now. I look back at it like, whoo. But we were trying. We were doing everything we knew to get as much nutrition in us. So about 9 years ago, I worked at a dental office for 16 years. And one of the patients, she said, "Hey, have you heard of this stuff called Juice Plus?" And we would always talk about health, wellness stuff. And I'm like, "No, I've never heard of it." So that began my journey. It took me another year before I even really researched it, looked into it. But once I did, I felt like I was that emoji with your like head pops off, like I was like, oh my gosh, this is 30 fruits and vegetables. It's food, it has a nutrition label.
Yeah, it's good.
And basically, it takes me 10 seconds to eat because I knew how much time, money, and all that it took. Not that I'm against juicing. I always tell people I'm not anti-supplement either. I'm just pro food. I'm pro whole food. Like, it's like that. I would like to choose that first. And then if I'm still deficient, then you go down that area. And again, testing is what helps you. So that's what got me on this journey. And I literally just got on the products after researching it and understanding it. It has 48 clinical research studies that helps show how it strengthens your immune system, which obviously pertains to all of us, reduces inflammation. We know that is where basically disease comes from. And then it helps with your heart, your gut, your lungs, your brain, your skin. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's just nutrition and it's nourishing your cells. So it makes sense that it's affecting our systems and our organs and such. So I just got on board because I knew I felt this was the most affordable way to get the most nutrition in. So me and my husband did that. And then as I started continuing to learn, I had a mom that had autoimmune. I'm pretty serious, actually. Used to get like treatments like cancer patients every I think every month. And I had a friend that had, Guillain-Barré. I mean, I had all these people in my life that had health issues, right? It's pretty normal. And so I started because I understood the nutrition part even before Juice Plus came into my life. I was like, they got to know about this. They got to know this is an option. So I just naturally started sharing. And what turned into really just feeling, I guess you could say, like just morally responsible that people knew this is an option because someone does have to share it with you. You can't just run to Target and get it. And so even though it's been around for 33 years, it's like pretty much someone has to educate you and a little bit share it with you. So a year into it, I really felt God kind of tap me on the shoulder. And I was just so loving the feedback I was getting from so many people of how it was helping them. And so
Mm,
it was just life-giving for me.
that's good.
And so that's what basically started my journey. I ended up quitting my job. I really felt God kind of tapped me on the shoulder. It was a big faith jump. Like it wasn't, sometimes people don't
Yeah.
realize what a big hard thing it was for me because I was in this job for 16 years. It was a great job. But I got even confirmed it a couple times that weekend, but I was already gonna walk in obedience. And man, never did I think that where we are right now with my husband and I, and the amount of people that we've been able to impact.
That's so
And
good.
it's so much more than a product. So it's
Right.
so much more than a product. I know you guys do healthy living events a lot. I think
Yes,
just
we
a
do.
green one not too
Yeah.
long ago.
Mhm.
And so that is really where my heart is going back to my story, I
Yeah.
understand how hard it is to make changes. I even understand how hard it is to start putting your money where you say that you like I
Right.
was super frugal. So even spending money
Yeah.
on those expensive supplements, like it was hard for me to make those choices.
Yeah.
And so I understand that, right? If it's not a budget item, I understand that it's hard to all of a sudden start whether it's the
Right.
gym or some type of a health thing to help supplement. So I have created a lot of events basically just to help people make lifestyle changes. Almost all of them I don't charge for. And that's my way of also just introducing Juice Plus and the whole food nutritional products. But I really, we really are about, the company's mission is to inspire healthy living around the world.
Yeah.
And it really is the heartbeat. And it's something I could line up with. And so I cannot tell you how thankful I am the Lord. And it took me a year of someone sharing
Yeah.
with me and trying to
And
educate
that's
me.
probably pretty typical for most people. They're going to be like, I don't have time for this. And then, well, okay, yeah, maybe I'll take the time to have a look at it. But I love what you said about inspiring, people to become healthy, across the world. And that's all, part of the mission, that you're on and also the company that you're with. And I love that you also mentioned that, this is food. And we do believe in like there are six essentials that you have to look at in order for a person to become healthy and whole. And certainly that's one of them. And then you mentioned, sometimes you're doing whole food supplementation and you're changing your nutrition and your dietary changes that are needed. But you know what? Sometimes there's still other supplements that you have to incorporate. And then of course water and exercise and six essentials. And so we can teach people and kind of show them the way. Now, going back to your journey, because you kind of circled back to that. And I just really want the audience to hear a little bit about, the struggle that could potentially be there and maybe how you wrestled through certain things so that that will help them as they're moving towards health and wholeness in all the aspects of who they are. So obviously, we're focusing on body, the soul, which includes the emotions and mind, your thinking, and then the spiritual. So of those, can you think of one in particular that was the hardest one for you that you could share and how you kind of wrestled through that?
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of probably go the direction of the more emotional and mental health. Um, Even though I know we've been talking a lot about the physical health, like I have gone through a lot of just rejection, some abuse, and just some hard things in my life through the years, all the way back from childhood. And so, when you say hardest, a lot of times it's the things that we can't see. And
Right.
so, I have struggled a lot, emotionally and mentally, and I have been thankful that I had a relationship with Christ at a very young age, and he got a hold of my heart in my teen years and all that, because that's really helped me a lot. I think kind of work through things even younger, because as you know, it just keeps developing things, certain lies and certain things that you're thinking about as years go by as an adult if you don't deal with it. And so um, I would say, like, I have really had to wrestle a lot with really understanding what I would just be called like the lies of the enemy and just deeply rooted beliefs that are totally contrary to the word or God's perspective of me. And because of words that have been said to me, because of experiences, I also walked through a divorce, and And so that is probably, honestly, that has probably been a lot harder than even some of these physical changes that we're talking about, and a lot of different fears. I've had to walk through, and so just a good example, I think, of just a recent one, and it doesn't ever end, right? Like, we're always working on
Right.
our emotional and mental health, so it's you
Mhm.
don't really ever arrive. You grow. And
Right.
so I just think of something recent that I can really apply the last year or two that I've been really growing in. And so I just remember even being a teenager and just the anxiety I would feel, like being in a prayer group, because again, I was in those environment, and I would be in a group where, like, we're supposed to pray together, and like the anxiety of having to speak up and pray, maybe because I was the leader of the group, or just because I thought someone expected me to, or whatever. I mean, it was high. And so I've had to grow through that, the whole speaking in front of other people in different ways. And so I have grown, but what's interesting is God's brought me to a place the last couple of years that, because of the growth in my business and just being a leader, um, um, like, I have basically been challenged to speak in front of other people. I've been asked to speak in front of other people, and it was interesting because when this first started happening, I just had this repeat in my head, like, you are not a speaker. Like, I literally would tell it to people, like, I know you think because I'm outgoing and I'm verbal, I'm a leader, which I am all those things. Like, that is part of my personality and who I am, that you think I like to speak in front of people, but I don't. I'm not a speaker. So I would just say that over and over, I'm not a speaker. And so, and people would be surprised and they would be, whatever. So it got to this place where I was like, being challenged and asked to speak, and immediately, default, I'm not a speaker, right? And I would say it.
Mhm.
And so one day, I have never heard God audibly, but I do believe the Lord has spoken to my heart and my mind in ways that it might as well be, because it's a sentence or a paragraph sometimes. uh, and so I really felt like he said to me, stop saying that. And it was like very clear. And I was like, I really wanted to kind of go Moses on him, like, well, but and I had all my
Mhm.
reasons. I talk
Mhm.
fast. I think my brain kind of jumbled. Like, I had all my reasons of why I was not a speaker. I mean, it wasn't just like I was just scared. And I knew he didn't. I mean, I'm sure he would have heard it, but I know better to just be like, okay, okay, God.
Yeah.
And so basically, I had this, and so I just started saying yes. I just started trusting the Lord to give me what I needed to change my perspective. So I stopped saying that, and I started in replacing it, right? Replacing it with other things, right? Even to the point that I remember I was going to speak in front of some people, and I wrote down a whole, like, truth, like it was like 7 or 8 things, and I would just fill my mind with these things that were true,
Good.
because I would have
Good.
things go through my head, which I'm sure you guys have had too, like,
Yeah.
who am I? I've only been doing this so long. These leaders, how can they, get something from,
Mhm.
all these different things. So I would say things like, even people who have been doing this for a while, I have something to give that they, like, I would just say these truths to myself. And I cannot tell you how much it has helped me. So much so that even this past summer, I spoke for 45 minutes, which was the biggest thing I've ever done on a stage. And I literally had spoken before, and they had done this little thing where people would do, like, encouraging notes after you speak, which was so beautiful that they would do that. And so I
Mhm.
literally read those notes before the next speaking, just to try to have the confidence and the encouragement going into it. And this is what I will say too, and I can end with this a little bit, but the thing that's helped me the most, I do deep breathing and some other things, but the thing that has helped me the most is just saying to myself, Kristy, you get to be you. Kristy, you just need to be you. And
Yes.
I know that sounds simple, and we've heard that before, like, as a kid, just be yourself, that
Mhm.
type of thing. But, like,
Yeah.
literally saying it in my head until I'm like, and I
Mhm.
remember my last time of speaking, I remember feeling so much joy, because after I got down, it wasn't because I did everything perfect. That's another issue I have, is I'm a recovering perfectionist. But it wasn't because I did everything perfect, when I got up there. It was because I knew when I stepped down, I felt like I was myself. Felt like I was me.
Oh,
I wasn't
very
trying to be
good.
somebody else.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how,
So good.
we speak things to ourselves that we never speak to anybody else? You wouldn't say to somebody else, "You're a terrible speaker. Don't do it." And,
Mhm.
but we do. And then when we get it, finally get it, we start speaking these things, that where the mind goes, the person follows. and how it changes. And then, just being yourself. I mean, how simple is that? I'm just going to be me. And then when you do it, like you're saying, you get done, it's almost like, yeah, that's all, that's what it was, just being me and
Yeah.
speaking the truth about myself. So,
Mhm.
and
And
you're great at
focusing on them too, right? Like focusing, I realized I was so focused on me, how I
it.
looked, how I like Kristy, if you focus on just blessing the people, whatever God wants to how to use you, we get so focused on ourselves we don't even realize it. And I do want to share this because it's just a beautiful thing. God is so gracious. He's allowed me to speak 6 times in the last 2 years now, but it's been gradual. It hasn't been, one time it was like I could like read it, another time it
Uh-huh.
kept going like that, even though sometimes it was in front of 1,000 people or hundreds of people. But now I'm at the point at the end of this month where I'll be speaking in front of thousands of people, and I'm like, how beautiful is it of the Lord to have given me these baby, like you said, baby steps,
Yes, the
steps
baby steps, even in that
instead
area.
of going from 0 to 100.
Yes.
And so I'm in a different place mentally, and I have more confidence, and so I would encourage anyone who's listening, it might be something different, it might not be speaking, it might be something else,
Yeah.
but God doesn't call us to anything that he won't equip us for. It might be hard, it might still be scary, and that is kind of part of my thing, is do it scared,
Yeah,
don't
that's
let that
right. Do
feeling.
it
So
afraid.
like,
Take the risk. Step
yep,
into
yep,
it.
and
Trust
it'll get better.
God. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. I know that when I work with my clients, typically that's probably one of the hardest things to overcome is that negative thinking, that stinking thinking that they talk about in recovery.
Mm.
So a couple of tools that I use with individuals, I'll have them get the book called The Lies We Believe, or the other one is Telling Yourself the Truth. And so it gets like we have to counter those beliefs with the truth, which is exactly what you did. So a lot of what you just shared with our audience, I think is going to be helpful to them. And yeah, just be yourself, you know, and it's funny that you brought that up as well, because I was talking to someone the other day about the first time I was asked to pray out loud in a public setting. Now, tell me, because that's an intimate thing, you're talking to God, and it's like, how would you pray for the class? And I'm like, me? What? And I mean, they could tell, deer in headlights, are you serious? Like, and basically it was just talk to God. Just talk to God. And it's the same thing. Just be you. Just be yourself. And trust the Lord with the results. You put yourself out there, be yourself. And I trust that everyone that's been listening to you today is walking away with some nuggets that are going to help them to take another step and another step and another step. So how can people get a hold of you if they want to find out what else you're up to, and maybe they want to know more about Juice Plus or the events that you're doing? So how can they contact you?
Or speaking engagement. Yes.
Speaking engagement. Yeah.
Well, let's not quite go there.
For 20,000.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
20,000.
right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, so it's from probably social media would probably be the best way. So I
Okay.
would say, a healthier you. 79 is Instagram, and then the Facebook is actually Kristy Love. And yeah, I would be happy. I so enjoy having conversations, no matter where people are on the journey. And as you can see, I'm very passionate about nutrition, but I'm very passionate about people being well emotionally. And I was just having a conversation with someone yesterday about it, a couple people actually. So yes, if I could help in any way, I would be happy to not only share about nutrition, but share anything that I shared speaks to you, or maybe you have questions, I would be happy to. So again, Kristy Love on Facebook. And then a healthier you 79 on Instagram.
All right.
Right.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for your time. We love you very much. And we can do
Thank you.
probably part 2, 3, 4, and 5 with all this. Just so I know so much
I
more of the
know it's
story.
We
good.
might do
Yeah,
that.
we might.
We,
Yeah.
we just might do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, and if anyone out there wants to connect with Mike and I, we do have several social media pages as well, Fit and Faith Lifestyle, our lifestyle coaching page on Facebook, And a couple of different websites that you can check into, lifecarechristiancenter.org, which is what we started 18 years ago now. I can't believe we just passed an anniversary date in June for 18 years of our nonprofit ministry. And we are launching a new branch of that ministry here in Southwest Florida called Arukah Ranch, where we are going to be taking a holistic approach to helping people here in this setting, as well as continuing to do ministry work in Michigan. So we're pretty excited about that. And by the way, Arukah means to heal, restore, and rebuild, to bring into wholeness body, soul, spirit. So we're excited about the journey that we're on as well, and we're thankful to have you on our show. And we know that we're going to continue to tap into the plethora of information that you have, Kristy. So
And maybe a couple of workshops in Florida from Kristy Klamer. Yes?
how about that? Stay
That'd be
tuned.
great.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Until next time. Bye, everybody.
Don't-